Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Tonight we have on one of the Hooters, or a Hoot, Mr. Eric Bazilian, and a solo artist and a songwriter and a producer and a million other things. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing okay, thanks. We're all going through our stuff in this odd time. I was in Sweden for almost a year because of COVID,
Yeah,
and my house here is rented out, but I had to come back to say goodbye to my mother, which I thankful
yeah,
I got to do, and now I'm sitting here in my real studio, which is awesome. I mean, my stuff has been untouched for a year. My piano, which was built in 1901 and hasn't
hmm
been touched in a year, was perfectly in tune.
Really
Yep.
nice.
So everything is exactly the way I left it.
That's be like a great gift, like a birthday. You come in, everything's there, all your stuff's out.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it's a little weird because you can see here I have windows. I'm on the
Yep.
second floor of a carriage house, and I look at my house and I see the people who are renting from us walking in and out.
Oh,
But they're really nice, so I'm okay with that.
that's gotta be kind of weird though.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah. So we got a couple things going on. I want to talk about, and you get the Hooters anniversary coming on. The Hooters are still playing. You're doing your solo stuff. You're working on it. Well, you finished an album that we'll talk about. I want to talk about some of the songs you've written, and during this process, you and your website, pretty fun website. You started doing a couple of like breakdown videos of some of the songs
Yeah, Under the Hood with Eric
under the
Bazilian.
hood. Thank you, and I want to thank you for doing them. So I think I don't have time for them now, but they're awesome. The way you really break it down, and you put like the little pictures of what's on here, what effects you're using, and everything. It's really great.
Cool.
Um,
No,
I really enjoy it.
I love doing them, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to make it for the last Monday of this month because
Yeah,
personal stuff that's been going on.
yeah,
But I do hope to do one before I go back to Sweden in a couple of weeks because I want to do it here with where I actually have the instruments that I played
yeah.
on those records.
It's what's great is you really strip it down, and that's the best part about music is like you write a song. The best song is written on like an acoustic guitar, or you know what I mean. So when you have all the bare, as we were talking earlier, you had the bare minimal stuff. You were still creating,
Sure.
magnificent music, and that's really the core of what a really good song is.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
minimalism.
it's something you can sing, you know.
But it is fun to have all the extra toys though too. Let's be honest.
Oh, I love all of it. That's the
Right.
thing, like you're describing me, and I'm a man of many hats,
hmm
and I can techno geek out with the best of them,
Yep.
and I can also be, shut up in a cabin in the woods with an instrument for a month.
Do you write on different instruments? Come up with a melody? How are you like your songwriting process? Has it changed?
Yeah, it almost always starts with some kind of a riff.
Yeah.
Um, Usually a guitar riff, sometimes a mandolin riff. Mostly lately I've been writing on a Swedish mandola, which is sounds more exotic than it is. It's actually an octave mandolin,
Yeah. It's the
uh,
big
but
one.
but it's tuned GD instead of GDAE,
Mhm.
and um, depending on what key you're in, you have to capo it, and it's very limiting in terms of like complicated voicings, which
Yeah.
is really cool. Um, and I still don't really know my way around it, so I'll just my fingers will land someplace and like, oh, that's cool, and
How fun.
suddenly there's a riff, and then usually I'll record something. I'll
Mhm.
a click or a beat or something to get my blood going, and I'll
Right.
record some kind of a chordal riff song structure,
Mhm.
which is what I did with One of Us. I had the guitar
Yeah.
riff. Um, I don't know if there's plenty of stuff online, me talking about this,
Yeah. I'm aware of it, but
but
yeah. Yeah.
a guitar riff, and then arpeggiated the verses with the same changes. Went to the 4 and 5 chord a few times for a pre-chorus, and then I'll record it in some very basic form, and then
Right.
usually I'll put the headphones on, I'll turn on a mic, and I'll start singing. And on a good day, it comes out on the first try. which is actually
That's
what
good.
happened with one of us, and one of us came out in a single pass.
That's
Literally,
crazy.
almost every word, except for the last line of the chorus, which I got stuck on, and my wife, who was my new girlfriend at the time,
Yeah.
was asleep on the sofa and woke up and said, "Trying to get home," and I got to give her props for that,
Perfect. It was, it was a good song. It
and
is a
for
good
sticking
song,
with me for 25 years.
right? Yeah, right.
Yeah. But
Win-win.
that is, that is my process. It's like I've got to create some kind of a band, and then,
Mhm.
okay, now I'm the singer. What am I going to sing? And that's when I'm channeling. I don't know if it's coming from up there, down there,
Yeah.
in here, whatever. A lot of the time, the lyrics that come out surprise me. It tells me things that I didn't know were going on in my mind. It's
A
really,
journey.
it is a journey, and it's therapy.
What's interesting, and I asked that because obviously I love to ask composers how they write, part of the journey of music. We'll listen to some of your solo stuff, and then some of the songs you've worked with other people, and then some of the Hooters. There's always like a linear line that ties everything together because that's who you are.
Yep.
But there's also a little difference because you're working with different people, different collaborations and stuff. And one of the things is like when I've heard some of the songs from your newest one, it feels very, very stripped back, very George Martin produced sound, Beatlesque. Am I right there?
Right on, man. Best
Okay.
compliment I could get.
Because that's what I heard when I heard it. I go, oh, I don't want to say that. That's the right thing to say? Because when I hear things, I'm like, oh, but that doesn't say the Beatles, but that's the time period. It feels like that's it. And it's
Well,
great. I love it. I'm a Beatles fan. You can look behind me. I'm a
the,
Beatles fan. So
the Beatles are the reason I do this. I'm that generation that saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and said, that's what I want to do.
yeah,
And I'm one of the lucky 0.1% who actually got to do it and make a living at it.
it's fantastic, and I hear that. And then what's really neat is because you do have a classical trained background, and it's really you have so much, well, a little bit, and with your mom, and you kind of grew up with that, but you also have a great pop sensibility. And I have some questions about like earlier on how you got into some songwriting. But when I listen to something like the Hooters stuff, you write in layers that's not normal for a pop song. Like with a mandolin, like you have almost like you may have one or two different melodies like layered in there. Whereas a simple pop song may just have a couple chords,
Right.
a guitar line that is a melody of the chord. Whereas you could actually peel apart some of your songs, and they could actually be another band could be like using for other riffs. I mean,
Oh
they
yeah.
work together. It's more than just a simple song if you really kind of go into the hood.
They're compositions, and my new record is that too. I mean, um, if you listen to the instrumental mixes, there's
Oh, yeah.
melody going on without the vocals. It's yeah, I mean, the Beatles were probably the first band that really did that, where it wasn't just guitarists playing the chords. There were
Mm-hmm.
parts. There was
Yeah, yeah.
there were counter melodies going on. It was very Bach-like, Beethoven-like, compositionally. And
It's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was talking about the production for your other album. I haven't heard but the few parts of the singles that you have out so far. And the other thing is also with the songwriting right here is that you don't like when people write a song, especially back then, be like you come with a big chorus and it would stop and go back into the verse.
mhm.
Whereas you guys would have more melody, another instrument playing right as continuing on like after the words. It wasn't just big chorus formula, you know. And it would be different instruments too.
Yeah, well,
And
there's
that
usually there's often an instrumental hook theme,
right,
like Carla with a K or Day by Day has got that
right,
that on the
yeah.
mandolin. Sure.
But I noticed a lot more. And it was you guys were always much more complex. I always felt, and for when
Mhm.
also, where did the Celtic or Celtic feeling come from you guys? Like in some of your songs, I know earlier on I've heard you guys talk about it. Like it feels very in the music earlier in the Hooters, kind of felt like a more world music, I guess I'd say. I hear the influences. And it was a perfect time for you guys to come out. I think if you come out at a different time, I think the '80s was a great time for a lot of the music because
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny. I'm not really a fan of most '80s music, although I think it is the last music that's been created that will be classic, that will be heard, that wedding bands will be playing in 2050. Um, but yeah, we had quite a journey in terms of genre. I mean, when the band started, we were a ska and reggae band. You know, Rob and I had a band called Baby Grand before that. That was signed to Arista. We had done a couple of albums, and very proud of those records. They're like sort of like Steely Dan on steroids, like very prog.
Oh, I like that.
A
I'll have to
lot
check
of,
it out.
yeah, they're not available on any of the digital platforms. I think they're on YouTube, and I'll actually send you a Dropbox link so you can hear them.
If you could, I'd love it. I love I love all that. I love Sierra Leone. I love prog. So
And
that's awesome.
we really played as though we were getting paid by the note. I mean, there's some, you know, as a guitarist, technically that was some of my well, certainly flashiest work. I won't say my best work, because
Right.
I still think that's yet to come. But we, you know, we had done that, and that sort of reached the end of its time. We knew it was time to do something else, and that was right around the time that Madness and
Our house and right.
well, before Our House, Our House was sort of their biggest pop
Biggest
hit
hit commercial, right?
commercial, but they were really in the beginning, they were a real hardcore ska band. Like One Step Beyond was that
Yep.
their first album, and there was a band called the Specials and the Selector and the English Beat, and they were all, you know, all British. There were no American bands doing that. And Rob had always been a big fan of reggae, and I was enough of a fan of it and knew enough about it to say, you know, let's be the first American band to do that, and but we'll really make it rock in a way that the British bands weren't. They were staying more true to the original ska thing. You know, we turned the guitars up and made it. So we really were a ska reggae rock band, and we did great, you know, in that genre for a few years. We built a huge audience in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
We did our first independent record in '83, and we sold 150,000 copies of it, which had an early version of All You Zombies.
Which is huge, because I don't think people realize. I mean, we're watching, if you're doing it generationally, this is not the internet. This is do it yourself. This isn't like you put it up there on a social media site and thousands of people can see it. This is, foot to the ground, shows, sweating out. So that's a huge number. That's like,
no, this was flyers going up on phone poles. This was bumper stickers, and this was also the support of local radio. WMMR in Philadelphia got behind us from the very beginning, and not just as a local band, but they had us in regular rotation with the Cars, with whoever else they were playing at the time, with Duran Duran.
Yeah, that's great. Those are the times when a station would do that. Stations could break bands.
Yep, they really did. I don't know that they do anymore, but
there's radio still.
there is, and it's funny. I'm back in Philadelphia, which has WXPN, which is sort of the flagship station for the AAA format, the adult alternative format, which is the only format that really plays cool new music.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Adele is one of the biggest pop stars in the world. WXPN broke her. They were the first station to play Chasing Pavements.
Really?
Because it was a cool track. Same thing with Macy Gray, Seal. So there are still cool, relevant radio stations in the world, just not a lot of them.
No. It's not around here. They're not anymore. Everything gets sold out, and it's all the same stuff. I have to go online to find everything.
Yeah.
Sure. Luckily there's that.
But to get back to our genre shift. So, in between, we did Cyndi Lauper's record, which was.
I have a question about that after.
Well, you can ask now.
Well, okay. So before I forget, all right, sorry.
Yeah.
How did you? Because you were big. Cyndi was just starting to break too. Well, we're coming out at the same time too. How did you get affiliated to actually be working on an album and songwriting? Because you were still a new artist yourself, and
Well, the often unsung hero in all of this was a guy named Rick Chertoff.
Mhm.
who was the drummer in the first band that Rob and I were in college.
Okay.
Who, after he graduated, decided that he wasn't going to be a drummer anymore, and he was going to be a record producer and A&R guy. And he got a job for Clive Davis at his new label, Arista.
Oh,
And the first thing he did was he found Mandy for Barry Manilow. Which, look, not my bag, but
no, no, but it's huge. Right,
yeah,
it's not mine either, but musically, it's huge.
yeah, and to find that song and say, this guy should
This,
sing it, that is A&R, artist
mhm,
and repertoire.
yeah.
Um, and so Rick got a Baby Grand, the next band that Rob and I were in together. He got us signed to Arista and produced those records. Then the Baby Grand thing ended, and Rick left Arista and went to Columbia, where
Hmm.
he became a staff producer and A&R guy there. And in '82, they asked him if he wanted to produce this girl, Cyndi Lauper, who they had just signed. And he met her and thought, yeah, there's something here. And rather than doing a record with studio musicians, he thought it would be cool to bring me and Rob in as sort of the core band.
Yeah.
So we spent 6 months in Philadelphia um, in our little garage workshop with a 4-track cassette recorder, with my Porta Studio, which I had just gotten, an 808 drum machine, a
Oh,
microphone,
wow.
and we demoed up all of these songs that he had brought in. Most of the songs on that record were songs that Rick found, like Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is written by Robert Hazard, another Philadelphia artist. Rick had a hard on for that song and Cyndi. He knew that Cindy's voice singing that song was a hit. And the fact that she hated it didn't make it any easier. She thought it was demeaning to women. I will never sing that song. And it wasn't until we came up with that arrangement, that I came up with that guitar riff, that all of a sudden her tune changed. And I always wanted to sing that song. It's so empowering to women. But so that was Rick, and Rick really, we all hunkered down and we came up with those arrangements, and went to the record plant in New York and made the album. And somewhere along the way, Cyndi and Rob wrote a song called Time After Time.
Oh, that's such a beautiful song.
Yeah. So, Rob and I are, aside from the drums and most of the bass, we're the band on that record.
That's fantastic. I never knew that full connection. I knew there was like a light. I'm like, because back then, like producers and having unknown people get near a board or write with artists and stuff was really hard. I mean, everything was back. Studios were really locked down. There's like 5 producers that could do everything. You
Right.
know,
Yep.
so you having that connection and then was a gift into its own. But then once you were there, you guys had the skills to deliver, because otherwise it just would have fizzled out if you couldn't
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
it was a perfect meeting of the two to get there, and then once you were there, you knew what to do.
Well, we had an amazing team. Rob is a great keyboard player.
Mhm.
I can play guitar, and I can play bass, and I can play mandolin, and I can play melodica, and basically anything with strings on it, or that you blow into. We had William Whitman as an engineer, who is still, I think, the single greatest living tone meister in the world, and a
Yeah.
great producer. And he produced the Outfields albums.
Okay.
Um,
Obviously, I've
I
heard of it. I
don't
didn't
want to
realize.
lose your love.
Yeah.
And then we had Rick, who is a brilliant producer, who would not let up until he got something that was special.
See,
I
that's
could
a
go in
gift
there.
there.
I could go in there, and play the guitar part, and he's like, "I'm not feeling it," and I do it again, and nope, not feeling it, and then I would do something completely different that I never would have done normally, and that's the magic sauce. It's just having that combination of people, and then Cyndi in there, who's so unusual, and she's brilliant in her wacky and not always easy, but always, it always pays off way.
That's great. I mean, I think that the fact that the producer can also look above, he's looking down, he's not in there, and he can see the
Right.
pieces of the pie.
Right.
That's a skill that not everyone has to
And
see.
producers now, producer now is a guy with a laptop who
Right.
who does everything. So there are very few, old school from above producers. I guess like Rick Rubin.
Mhm.
is a good example of that. He's still doing it.
Yeah, there really isn't much. I mean, well, I said this before the show. I went to school for it, and like it was like literally, I learned 24 track, a splicing with a razor and
Wow.
stuff. Beautiful stuff. Learning. I mean, and this is an lead in. So a lot of albums that could come out in a time period. So I was in production. It's a music business school. Um, I want to go back on some of my favorite albums, and at the time, Nervous Night was one of my favorites. I said earlier, I'd seen you guys open for Loverboy, but the sounds you guys were a little different, and that kind of leads in with like with the 80s. I mean, there's a lot of crappy bands too. There's crappy bands every time period. But what was neat about the 80s, and I don't know if everybody recognizes the same, is so many different sounds could come out were accepted.
Yep.
And I've heard about like you could have like Men at Work, and then you guys could have your sound, and then you could have like like a Loverboy, and they could all be called pop or Cyndi Lauper. A lot of those artists right now, you could not have all those sounds. Pretty much after that, all the genres were kind of sound the same. And I'm not sounding like an old person. I mean, I do sound like an old person. Get off my lawn. But what I'm saying is there is no difference. I mean, production wise, the sound is all chopped together with megahertz. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yep.
just no
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, look, I periodically will peruse the Spotify top 50, and literally everything sounds the same to me. You know, when I listen to a record from the 60s, 70s, 80s, not
Mhm.
even 90s, I see a guitar player, I see a keyboard player, I see a drummer. Now, when I listen, I see a guy with a laptop.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And
I do a show. Sorry, I mean to step on you. It's like a record thing I do. Like say we you and then me. We each pick records from our collection, like that we love, right?
Mhm.
And we just go boom. We'll talk about Van Halen or Frank Zappa or like last guy I had Supertramp on Breakfast America, and you'll open it up and someone else had like Alice Cooper, and you open it up, look, it's a desk and it comes with here and here's like pictures of artists doing stuff, and we talk about who the producer was and the songs, and you really just it's an event,
yep.
and that died in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, look, there is still some great music being made. You know, for example, I think Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas are brilliant. I didn't want to like them because they were, the flavor of the
Yep.
month, I thought. Then I saw them perform at an ASCAP Awards
Mhm.
event, just the two of them, and I was blown away. He played piano, he played great. She sings amazingly. She really
Yeah.
has a timeless.
My kids turned me on too. Like, I agree. I mean, it's not something I would listen to, but I had to go back and look it up and go like, all right, I get it.
And their songs, those are real
Hmm.
songs.
Yeah.
I heard them once and I could remember how some of them went.
Yeah.
It was a very rare thing today. So, yeah, they've got a thing going on.
Well, I mean, of course, it's like there are artists like I'm saying, but the whole event of being able to do a whole thing where like build an artist, a couple years and
Yeah.
albums, and there was producers and there's like a whole team, and people were putting songs together. I'm
Yep.
saying the ritual of music is kind of evaporated. It's just pockets of it now,
Yeah. Well, there,
and
there was a whole Darwinian process, you know, to get into a studio,
that
you
is a
had to
great
have
phrase
someone,
for it.
yeah, you had to pay for it.
I,
And that meant that you had to go out and play live and get a live following and
mhm.
get the attention of a record company and and do
Yeah,
it. Now a 12-year-old with a laptop can make something that sounds like a record.
yeah.
Not that I
It's
have
it
anything against 12-year-olds with laptops. Believe me, when I was 12, if I could have had a laptop, I would have.
right. I mean, and there's just it's just crazy that it has changed so much. When the shift, so like for me, things changed. Like right when I got my degree, I got done editing, big whatever 24 track studio, analog. Mac came out, laptops. They
Yep.
first started doing it. Everything started to go digital. I started learning that and stuff, blah blah blah. But just as there's like a seismic shift in the music industry, for me, that was around the same time that pop changed, grunge kind of came in, radio formats changed.
Mhm.
Did that kind of affect you guys too?
Um, I don't think it affected the Hooters really because we were already a legacy band at that point. You know, our big splash in the US was 85, 86. And we kept momentum going through the 80s, but by the 90s, we were kind of done in the US. Fortunately, Germany and Scandinavia had embraced us, and we toured very successfully and kept releasing records, through 95.
Germany's the best. If Germany loves you, they will support you for the rest of your days.
They,
The
once you have
loyalty.
a fan in Germany, you have them forever.
Hmm. Yeah, there's so many bands they've done it to, and it's fantastic because the fickle American audience.
Yeah, it's funny because I think what's happened with the audiences today is it's become the word I've seen is balkanized. It's very niche oriented now. Yes,
Mm,
you've got your pop, you've got your Ed Sheerans and your Drakes and your Justin Biebers and um, um, Dua Lipas, who a billion streams.
right.
But there's also a whole world of alternative rock out there. Okay, they only get 30 million streams, and I've never heard of any of them, but
Yeah.
they have this whole rabid audience following. Then you've got the whole garage rock scene, and there are all these bands doing that. Um, you remember the Lumineers?
Yeah.
Huge hit. I mean, what was that? That was like one guitar and stomping and clapping and hey ho. That's the last time I remember a song like that kind of crossing over into pop. But what's happened now is it's become so tribal. You
Mm.
know, you like this particular kind of emo rock. You like this particular kind of death metal. You like that particular kind of alternative pop. You like that particular type of hard style EDM.
It's hard. I like to when I have people on the show. I'll say one of the phrases I hate is people say, "What's your guilty music like? What's your guilty thing?" I'm like, I'm not guilty of anything I have in my thing. I'll listen to ABBA and I'll listen to Slayer. I'll listen to Hooters. I'll listen to Mozart. I got records by. I listen to everything. I don't feel guilty for anything I like. I like music. I mean, there are artists I don't particularly care for, but I wouldn't tear them down because they're artists.
Yeah.
I don't just I don't like it doesn't mean you know. But with that, the time period that we could do that, I could go there's even concerts at the time you could go see different types of bands. It's sort of a similar thing, but there were still different types of music you could go see, even at festivals. Now you're right, it's one thing.
Yep.
You know,
What
you
I
can't.
love about one thing that I love about playing at festivals in Europe is that they have a whole spectrum of artists on the
Yeah,
same stage. You know,
that's beautiful.
even like we play a lot of hard rock festivals, which
Hmm.
you'd think would be a weird fit, but they love us. When they
I
see the
don't.
accordion and the mandolin, they go nuts.
I love the fact you play the mandolin. How did you get into it so much? Like, what led you to that early on? I mean,
Um, it's funny when we made our very first demos for the band that would become the Hooters. Um, Rob was curious about the mandolin.
it sounds beautiful.
He had, he didn't want to play it, but he thought that I should. So we borrowed he borrowed a mandolin from a friend of his, and I was producing a band at the time that had a melodica.
Mhm.
So I brought the melodica in. He brought the mandolin in, and that it just stuck. I didn't know my way around the mandolin, so I just found my own crazy chord structures
Yeah,
and riffs, and that just sort of stuck. Um, it
it
didn't.
adds something to your music. It's so different. Like it's like a layer of like it's a melody, but I'm lost for words.
It's
You know what I'm
another
saying?
tech. It's just another texture. It takes up a different space that a guitar doesn't, and a
Sonically, yeah.
keyboard doesn't. The fact that it's tuned in fifths like a violin,
Hmm.
you get more open chord voicings that way. Um, and it's funny though, after those first demos, the mandolin disappeared for a while because it didn't really fit into the ska reggae
Hmm.
thing we were doing. Um, but then when we went to we did the Cyndi record. We had our huge following in Philadelphia. We did our indie record, Amore,
Hmm.
sold a bunch of them, got signed to Columbia, and started writing songs for that record. And one of the earliest songs we wrote was "And We Danced."
Okay.
I remembered the song that we had used the mandolin on from our first demo that went by the wayside. The song wasn't great, but it had a really cool mandolin melodica riff. so I sort of adapted that to what And We Danced was becoming, and that's when it reappeared. And the melodica, reappeared as well in a more prominent role.
which is really kind of tied to you guys on a
Yep.
huge level.
And then something else happened. I remember specifically while we were in pre-production for that song, I was looking for a guitar part,
Hmm.
and with the Hooters, I had in our ska and reggae phase, I had kind of put my rock guitar dreams aside. I just thought idiomatically, the ska thing is more clean guitar, not so much shredding. It's, kind of more basic punky. And we were looking for a guitar part, and Rick Chertoff was with us, and he said, "How about you turn that guitar up and sound like Eric Bazilian again?" So I did, and I came up with that guitar riff, the arpeggiated verse
Yep.
riff and the chordal chorus riff, and then, our drummer got to play rock drums again for the first time in a while, which is something that he's amazing at. And then it found its way into Day by Day and Where Did the Children Go? And it really became a signature part of our sound.
It was great, and I think one of the things you guys also had, to me, and you could probably put it in better words, obviously, it was almost haunting. Like your melodies on some level were haunting and more powerful. It just felt bigger. You know what I'm saying? Like no one else was doing that, especially just you'd hear it. Just felt like so much more going on. It was just a lack of words to that one. But you know what I'm saying? It's just that was one of my favorite things about you guys, because your sounds that you guys chose to present it with, along with, and you'd rock out and then you kind of go back again. And was that a lot of Rob's the keyboard effects, and he was doing too, his sounds?
It was, it was all of us, it was, Rob saying, "Why don't you try the mandolin here?" Me saying, "Why don't you try that sound on the Juno there?"
Mhm.
You know, it was really a mind meld at its best.
Because you
And
guys continued on. I mean, obviously that was your big one, then Zigzag
yeah,
or stuff, but you guys did not waver in quality songs either. Just the radio did not embrace it the same.
well, the radio in the United States didn't.
Right.
So
Yes,
One
it's
Way Home
corrected.
came out in Germany, and Johnny B was
Hmm.
like a #1 record there, which is sort of was the beginning of the end of our career here. But even if I were driving on the Autobahn and got pulled over, I would say to the policeman, "Have you heard of the Hooters?" The Hooters, Johnny B, how much there is, and he'd start singing along, and he'd let me go.
That's awesome.
And Carla with a K, which is possibly the most Hooterized song of all time.
Yeah.
So those are the showstoppers over there. We do And We Danced over there, and they love it because it's a great rocking song and it ends the set well.
Hmm.
But it's not like that's a song that they grew up hearing on the radio.
Yeah. I love Johnny B too.
And then you get into Zigzag, the third Columbia album. 500 Miles was a hit in Sweden. Go figure.
Awesome. But it's good. I mean, other markets appreciated you when America got fickle.
Yeah, well, as I like to say, we kept having bigger hits in smaller countries.
That's good though. A lot of people
Yeah.
didn't have any hits. I think
Yep.
it's good. You're a musician. You're not, you're less rock star, more musician. You play instruments, you write songs. That's what you do.
You know what? The rock star thing, I saw the Beatles and I thought I want to be one of those guys.
Hmm.
That wasn't really what motivated me, and that's really not what motivates me now. It's the work. I want my music to be famous. I don't care about me. I like to walk down the street unrecognized.
I understand that you are a musician. As I'm saying, I like to have like musicians on the show because I like that. It's the thought of when you see like the Beatles and stuff. I could have imagined that. Like, don't have the talent, just being in that position, the anxiety. I'd have an anxiety attack or something to have that attention on you for that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's so unreal. Like, no one says no. That song kind of sucks, or no, what's wrong with you? Get up and get it yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying they were doing it, but to have that idol worship is just so ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who are really famous. I've worked with a bunch of them, and I would not trade places with them at all. You
It
know,
just looks crazy,
I have the respect of my peers,
which
and
is all you
that's
could want.
yeah, really.
I mean, I've seen interviews that be like, "So you're the best rock singer in the world. What do you have to say about that?" They're like, I don't. Was that a question? Was that a statement? Thank you. Like you don't want to be like that's really nothing. That's not even. So where can you go with that? So you did you work with Desmond Child? I know you actually work with him directly.
Oh yeah, a lot, a
I've
lot.
had him on the show. He's fantastic. We've talked about some of his songs, and I'm gonna say just two albums that I thought were like they didn't get big that I thought were they should have been bigger was he did album with Rat, and he did an album it was a Scorpions album, and I believe you wrote some songs to
I
Scorpions for
wrote
that, right?
most of that album.
That was one of the albums. That album should have been bigger. That I don't know, escaped the world.
I think it did really well in other countries.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Because America just gave up on music at one point. It was good. It was really good. And I know you've continued writing other songs too for them.
Yeah.
You wrote
I
Laurel
started,
Lee,
I
which
started writing
is
with them in 2003.
wow.
And I think 6 or 7 of the songs that we wrote back then
Mhm.
ended up on Sting in the Tail.
Laurel Lee, we one of them, right? That is a beautiful song.
Which one?
Is it Laurel Lee?
Lorelei.
Lorelei.
Yeah.
Lorelei. Sorry, Lorelei. Sorry, yeah.
Actually,
Lorelei.
that's a funny one. That was really written by 2 friends of mine in Sweden. And I jumped in and wrote the second verse and
Mhm.
made some musical tweaks on it at the last minute. But that was those are the 2 guys that I wrote The Best Is Yet to Come with.
Oh wow.
Because at the end of my first session with the Scorpions in 2003, Klaus said to me, "So Eric, you are going to Sweden. Why don't you write us a hit song with your Swedish hitmaker friends?" So we wrote with Fredrik Tomander and Gary Wikström. We wrote The Best Is Yet to Come, which didn't make that album and didn't make Humanity. Desmond didn't like it, and
No.
then it went on Sting in the Tail. And according to my ASCAP statements, song's still doing really well.
It's a good album. They're still doing well.
I was
They
supposed
got
to produce that album.
really. What
Yep.
happened to that?
A Swede stole it from me. No, it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, being a producer is a thankless job. I do it out of necessity, or I do it if it's someone that I really, really just love working with.
Yeah. Yeah, because yeah, if but being a producer, being a songwriter, and a performer, you'd really know. And I always think the best artists are producers,
Yep.
are artists themselves, and you could play that into the easy example would be outside of this what we're talking about would be like a Ted Templeman with Van Halen, like when to get that rock sound, or
Yep.
or when Ted Templeman would do I don't know any other artist he would do. He knew the melodies, and he could pull things out of the air like that you needed to fill the holes or not fill the holes in a song, because sometimes not having a sound is the best part of the music, the space.
Yep. And honestly, I love being produced. I much prefer being produced to producing
Oh yeah,
by a good
do
producer.
you have a favorite producer?
Well, aside from Rick Chertoff, who is my hero and
Right.
whom I'm eternally grateful, I enjoy working with Desmond a lot.
Mhm.
Not always easy, but
He didn't produce, so he's well. I don't think he's been able to produce. He's always had a hard time being able to produce, though, right?
he produced he produced Humanity,
Yeah. Okay.
and he produced no, he's produced a lot of huge stuff. Joan Jett, Cher, but he produced and the Billy Myers album that we did together with Kiss the Rain. But no, what was the one I was thinking of that was really kind of an epic production job? It'll come back to me. But Meatloaf, the Bad Out of Hell 3, he produced
3.
that.
That was a big too.
Yeah.
Well, it's Meatloaf.
But there's actually my favorite current producer is a new friend I made in Slovenia, of all places. But my journey in Sweden led me to Slovenia, and this guy named Martin Stibernik, who is a genius musician, producer, everything. But I ended up making a record with a Slovenian artist in his studio, which is very much like my studio. It's in his house, and it's awesome. and he pulled stuff out of me that was just like, wow.
That's good. That's
And
exciting.
I enjoyed it so much. There's an artist in Philadelphia that I've been working with for some years named Alexis Cunningham.
Hmm.
And I met her when she was like 21 years old, and the last thing I wanted was an unsigned, untested new artist.
Yeah.
But I heard her voice, I met her, I really liked her, and we have been collaborating. It's, I think, 7 years now that we've been writing songs, recording them, and waiting for the secret sauce that was going to make the thing that the world was waiting for. And I brought
Yeah.
him over here. Martin came over here, and in 10 days we made what is going to someday be an epic album when the world becomes a safe place to release new
Release.
music and launch a new career.
So that's with her, and you were part of that. What about talk about releasing? What about your album too?
What
You've done
about my
singles. When you, are
well,
you gonna release it? Are you gonna wait till the world's safe on that one too? Or are you gonna
no, no. I mean,
even?
for me, the world is never going to be a safe place. Look, I'm a guy from from an '80s band, and nobody knows who I am.
No,
Um,
but the world's never gonna be safe for me. I like that whole.
yeah, and that's cool. And I made this record with no expectations. It came out better than I thought it would. Um, then I've got some great videos.
Mhm.
Actually, we're about to put up the video for Sarah when she's sleeping,
Okay.
which was done by Haley Monson, the same young woman that did the animation for Heaven Ain't Gonna Save Us and I Miss Everything.
Oh wow. Okay.
These two singles.
Did a good job on that.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. I totally stumbled upon her by accident. Um, and then the next single I've got coming in April has an amazing video that is not animated that I shot last summer in the Swedish countryside and will blow some minds.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear the music too, because from what I've heard, like I
And then
said,
the album, I'll probably release the album in April. The thing with albums is you used to release an album and then you would release the singles, or you
mhm,
would release one single, then the album. But now the way Spotify and Apple Music work with the algorithm things, once the album is out, you're done.
yeah,
So any singles that you think are viable, you have to release before the album comes out. So I'm playing that game, and I'm doing it with, I've got a great team of, digital promotion people, and, they're doing their best. I even have a radio promo guy working it, and,
wow.
he's a legend and he's doing his best. And, you know, anything that comes of it, I will be surprised and grateful for.
Well, you just got to find the right tribe to put it. You know what I mean? That's all. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to hear the whole thing. So you got a lot going on. So hopefully, well, and the thing is, I know obviously they're saying now nothing's really no touring or whatever. So a lot of bands I think are starting to release their albums now. Some are holding them. Some are like we should put it out now. And I love to ask a question. There's no wrong answer. There's no right answer like when to do it.
Right.
And I, like you call yourself a legacy artist, and a lot of legacy artists are the same. Some are like, no, I want to tour on it, and some are like, I'm done, and I've been holding it, and I'm already started writing another one. I'm getting back up. I got to release it because I got more coming. As an artist.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of what Alexis and I are doing now, because we have album, this great album sitting on a hard drive.
Yeah.
And, I've sent it to my people that I know who are still in the business
Hmm.
from the majors down to the indies. And they all say, this is great. Let me know when you have 1 million followers. You've got to get
Yeah.
get. So what we're doing now is we've just finished an EP of Beach Boys covers, like very, very reinvented Beach Boys covers, some of them.
Like across the board, old to new Beach Boys are like early
Yeah.
era.
Old, well, yeah, mostly, yeah, classic, all hits, all the hits.
Yeah. Endless
And,
Summer.
and we're going to release that, to get, her name out there,
Mhm.
and just so that there's some content and people can hear what a great singer she is, and what a great vocal blend we have.
Yeah.
And actually now we're working on some Carpenters covers, talking about
Oh,
guilty pleasures.
right?
And I've never been guilty about that either. I've always loved the Carpenters.
I think I love a melody, and they are great.
Yep.
You know, those melodies were just. I'll learn the lead lines on guitar just because it's so much fun. It's just a good melody is really it. You
Well,
know.
speaking of guitar, they had an amazing guitarist in that band named Tony Peluso. And
Mhm.
on their their later records, there's some amazing guitar playing that he did. There's a song called "Goodbye to Love,"
Mhm.
which the second, like the last 2 minutes of the song is guitar solo, like fuzzy guitar solo.
I will have to go check it out after we tonight.
And there's another song called "Happy," which
Mhm.
doesn't really have a guitar solo, but it's built around this amazing guitar riff that he played.
I will. That's a
So,
hidden gem.
but yeah, to get back to the issue of, when to release and how to release,
Yeah.
we're gonna, we are holding the real album until whenever we
Mhm.
think it has a shot. But in the meantime, we'll get her name out there, we'll get my name out there, we'll get the sound
Yeah,
out there, and
it's a
then
good
we'll hit
idea.
them over the head with the real thing.
Well, when you're ready, if you want to have her come on, we can promote her stuff too.
Yep.
Put her name out there. Let me know. We'll do it. I'm all about promoting people. Um, while we're talking about promoting and waiting for tours, this other band you're in, the Hooters, 40th anniversary you were talking?
Yep.
What are we looking at? So obviously everyone got the brakes on, but it is 40 years. We're just taking a breath. And then you're gonna jump into it once it touring starts. I know everyone's talking maybe 2022 now is the realistic
Yeah.
Fauci
Oh,
word.
we are locked and loaded.
Oh, good.
I mean, yeah. Oh, we had plans, and now we've got even more plans.
Good. It's
And
good to
now that I've done solo record, um, and I've gotten my first shot. Soon I'll be fully vaccinated.
yeah.
Travel will become more of an option for me.
Mhm.
Uh, Rob and I are talking about actually seeing if we can maybe hunker down and get another Hooters record.
That's going to ask you if you can do something special or like to add to it, or like, you know what I'm saying, like a re-release or something, addition or something. A new Hooters album would be even better. That would be the
Yeah, I
best.
mean, listen, it's not easy after 40 years, um, because the bar is so high. Are we going to write a better rock song than We Danced? Are we going to write a better reggae rock song than All You Zombies? Are we going to write a better, hard kind of semi hard rock ballad than Johnny B?
Mm.
Are we going to write a better Celtic Zydeco tinged song than Carla with a K? I don't know, but you know what? We're going to try.
You can try. It's good to compete against yourself until you're done with it,
Hmm.
and then it's just another good song because there's a certain point, like with your kids, you know what I mean? They're all different, you
Yep.
know. Except I tell my kids I love one of them the most, and every day is a fresh day for them to improve themselves better for me.
Oh, nice.
That's our little secret on the internet. Um, but seriously, on your songs, I mean, you can't. There's no way. How could you compete against a perfect song at the perfect time? Like, say, like, and we dance didn't become huge, but it's a good song. You know what I'm saying, would it have been any better or less a song if it
Right.
didn't? Comparably to you, I mean, it's great to get the accolades and the cash and the support because more support means you can do more music, and that's the goal.
Right.
But it
Another
doesn't change the
another
song.
big another a big factor, and I think all legacy bands face this. You make another record. What hits do you take out of your live set
Yeah.
to play that? The Stones put out a new record. Their last record was pretty good.
Mhm.
But even, last time I saw them, Mick said, okay, now's the time when you can go grab another beer. We're going to do a couple of songs from the new record.
Well, yeah, because it's the audiences are weird because you'll have half that wants new albums and half that doesn't. So then you're like, as an artist, you want to create, but then is it financially feasible? Because some artists at this point are like, no, I'm just gonna go out and do the hits
Yep.
every summer. Or I'm gonna do fly-in dates because that makes more money because playing these small gigs, saturates the market. You're not getting anything out of it, and that's the thing now, the fly-in dates with the
Yeah.
hits.
But the
Whereas
thing
me,
is,
I get it either way, but I appreciate it.
for us, every show is still like we're in 1980 and we're trying to prove ourselves. And we're always evolving the show, even if the songs are the same, and there's certain blocks of songs that will always go together because they have amazing segues.
Yeah.
The show's different every night. That we always bring something special to it.
The energy you have in it, and it's just
The
I saw.
energy, and it's funny, even though, like guitar solos, for example. Okay, the
Mhm.
guitar solo in All You Zombies. That's like, okay, I don't want to compare myself to David Gilmour, but it's kind of like the solo on Another Brick in the Wall. When Pink Floyd or Roger Waters do Another Brick in the Wall, that guitar solo is going to go da 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 da. All You Zombies, that guitar solo has got to go da 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 ding 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 ding. And I tried doing different solos for a while, and you know what? Didn't make anybody happy.
You know, there's a sound, an guitar sound similar. Could have been a Clapton type of song too. One of your solos too. Same thing.
Well, Clapton was definitely, he was one of those
It was a
epic.
good sound. I could really hear this on the Boulevard album or something. It was very in that time period. The guitar solo, it's one of the songs of your first album. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. There's a lot of rock in that album. That's just layered in with everything else. Just a lot of different stuff. People hear one thing, they hear the keyboard or the little keyboard. You did so. As you got popular for. I'm sure you got beat up for that question a lot. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show tonight. I'm glad you come on. We'll put all your links and everything you have underneath. When I put it up, I'll let you know. And when the album comes out, you have more stuff you want to promote, let me know. I'll have you on. We can have that girl come on again. I don't remember. I'm sorry, her name. We can promote her stuff. Alexis. Yeah.
Remember that name.
I will. We will promote her, and then we can do the Hooters again. Okay. Anything to support you guys and help you get some more views. All right. I want to thank you for being on the show.
Much appreciated. My pleasure.
Right. Thank you.
Take care.